day, Thomas and Oliver were idling in the station talking to Jake. "Say Oliver," Jake said, "do you know what GWR stands for?" "Oh, that's easy," Oliver replied. "Great Western Railway, of course." "No," Jake said, "God's Wonderful Railway." Oliver laughed. "I must say that's a good one," he chuckled. Just then, the Fat Controller came along looking very jovial. "Morning, sir," said Thomas respectfully. "Good morning, you two," the Fat Controller replied cheerfully. "Ready for a hard day's work? That's right." And he went about his business. The engines were most surprised. "He's in a very good mood today," Thomas observed. "Yes," Oliver agreed. "A very good mood. We wonder what the occasion is." "I don't know," Jake said. "I know it's not unheard of for him to be in a good mood, but he seems really happy. I heard him singing as I passed by him this morning shortly before coming to see you two." "Maybe his birthday's coming up," suggested Oliver. "Not that soon. His birthday isn't for a long time yet," Thomas said. "Perhaps he's got a special event coming up." "That's possible," Jake said. "Maybe a relative's wedding, someone else's birthday party, booked a holiday. Could be anything. Or maybe a special rail event," Oliver said hopefully. "It's been such a long time since we last had one of those. Oh, I do love railway events." "As I say, it could be anything," Jake said. "Shall we ask him?" Thomas asked. "It's the only way to find out," Jake replied. "I'll go and ask him." So he crossed over the footbridge to the other platform where the Fat Controller was. "Ah, hello, Jake. And what can I do for you?" "Hello, sir. I was wondering if I could ask you something." "Anything you like," the Fat Controller smiled. "Well," Jake said, that being me, Thomas and Oliver, we've noticed you seem in a very jolly mood today. We was wondering why, if you don't mind us asking." "Ah," said the Fat Controller. "That is a surprise." "A surprise, sir?" "Yes, I'm holding a special rail event that'll be a week long. As for what the event is, you shall find out this Sunday." "I see," Jake said. "Well, I'm sure we'll all be pleasantly surprised when the day comes. I'm sure the event will be a great success." "I shall personally see to it that it is," the Fat Controller replied. Jake soon came back to the other platform and told Thomas and Oliver what the Fat Controller had told him. "An event?" Thomas said. "A week long, no less," Oliver mused. "What could possibly be so huge that it justifies being held for a week?" "I'm not sure," Thomas said. And he kept on thinking about the possibilities of what the event could be as he took his trucks down the line. Later still, Thomas and Oliver told all of the other engines about the event later that afternoon before doing some other jobs. "An event that's a week long?" Henry said. "That's interesting," Toby mused. "What is it?" "That's just it," Thomas replied. "Jake said he didn't say. All he said was about what the event is. A surprise." "Well, it can't be for another anniversary of our very own railway series," Gordon said. "That's not until May. It's February now." "And our TV series didn't air until October, so it won't be for that either," James added. "But whatever the occasion, I'm sure it'll be an extra special event," Edward said. "It isn't long until we get to find out." That was when a yard manager came up. "Speaking of the event," he said, "to top Matt's orders, one by one, you will all be called in for a wash down and polishing and a fresh coat of paint. No questions asked. He insists you all look your best." And he left. "Now that's something I can get by with," James smiled. "Yes, so you can show off again," Henry sniggered. "No, you're going to be showing off, Henry," James spluttered defensively. "No one is going to be showing off," Edward said firmly. "The Fat Controller is clearly putting a lot of hard work and organisation into this event, so not only will we look our best, but we will all be on our best behaviour too." "This will be rich coming from me, and I know, but I for one agree with Edward," Gordon said. "This event is clearly going to be one of, if not our biggest one yet. Let's all make it an extra special success." "Hear, hear," Toby agreed. And the engines all talked about what the Fat Controller's surprise event could be before starting some late afternoon jobs. And the next morning, the Fat Controller was true to his word. As well as their regular jobs, one by one the engines were pulled out to have a repaint, a washdown, and a polish. Percy had finished the morning post run when it was his turn. When he came through the station, he saw that was being repainted too, and some men were going around scrubbing the windows. "Well, bust my buffers!" Percy exclaimed. "That's right," said one of the workmen. "He not only wants you lot looking your finest, but the stations as well." "Well, it's clearly a big event after all," Percy agreed, and he continued on his way. Soon enough, Percy had had his repaint, and now he was having his washdown. The Fat Controller came to inspect everything. "Marvellous," he said. "You're going to look absolutely wonderful through the event, Percy."
"Thank you, sir," Percy replied. "But what is the event if it means we get repainted, washed and polished all at once?"
"Remember, Percy, it's a surprise," the Fat Controller reminded.
"Well, if you tell me, I'm still that surprised."
"Ho ho ho, sure you are, cheeky engine, Percy." And the Fat Controller laughed.
"Rats,"
muttered Percy. "What, did you think that was going to work?" laughed Jake. Percy said nothing and just let the work carry on. Percy later ended up back at the station and met Thomas there.
"Hello, Percy,"
Thomas said.
"You do look splendid." "Thank you. The same for you,"
Percy said.
"What's going on now? Different flags and bunting are being put up."
And indeed there was.
"We Spacelot made this bunting ourselves," Caroline said proudly. "Do you like it?" "It looks wonderful," Percy replied. "Come to think of it," Thomas said, "do you know what the event is about, Caroline?"
"No, but Lucy does," Caroline answered. "She's been arranging it with the Fat Controller, but for us it's a surprise."
"And it certainly won't be long until we get to find out," Thomas said. "Today's Friday. Sunday is the day after tomorrow."
"That close?" Percy exclaimed. "Yep," confirmed Jake. "I guess we can all call this the final arrangement." The Fat Controller and Lucy came out of the office. "Well done, everyone," Lucy said, admiring how the space bunting looked hung up around the station. "Indeed," smiled the Fat Controller. "Everything looks grand." He was about to go into his office when Thomas called for him.
"Sir,"
he said,
"when do we find out what the surprise is?"
"Sunday," replied the Fat Controller.
"No, I meant when on Sunday do we find out?"
"I'm going to brief you all on that tonight," the Fat Controller replied. "That way I can tell you all at once."
"Yes, sir,"
Thomas said. "Oh, do excuse me, I must get that." He went into his office and picked up the phone. Thomas and Percy went back to work. Once the day's work had been completed, the engines were awaiting the Fat Controller to come and tell them what the plan was.
"And are you sure he said he'd be coming here tonight, Thomas?"
James asked.
"Positive," Thomas replied. "He told me himself he'd be coming."
"Shh, here he comes," said Gordon. The Fat Controller came up. "Evening all," he said. "Now, as I promised Thomas, the briefing. The station on Sunday morning must be ready by 10:30. That's when all the public, press, etc. will start to fill in. Then all of you can fill in as well and await my announcements, which shall be made at 10:50. Then at 11 o'clock, everything shall begin."
"We'll all certainly be ready by then," Edward promised. "But what about the public? Do they know that there is anything going on?"
"They do," the Fat Controller answered. "And just as well this surprise won't disappoint. Tickets for all the days of the event have completely sold out. Everyone must be eager to see what's occurring," Doc remarked. "At least it's not long now." "Indeed not," agreed the Fat Controller. "So tomorrow you must all work really hard, and Sunday will be here before you know it."
"Yes, sir,"
the engines chorused in unison. The Fat Controller left to go home for the night, and the engines talked about the event again. They did it for a very long time before eventually going to sleep. The next day felt very long to the engines, but they carried on their jobs and did it all without fuss or delay.
Fat Controller was massively pleased at how well everything ran to time. The final preparations were all done, and everywhere looked wonderful. And the surprises came in further still, as by the afternoon, Henry came bustling into the station with some people from the town. He was very surprised to find Stepney sitting at the opposite platform. "Stepney?" he said. "Well, I must say, I wasn't expecting to see you today." "To be perfectly honest, Henry, I wasn't expecting to come here," Stepney said. "The Fat Controller said he was having a very special rail event and he kindly invited me to take part in it too. He wouldn't let me know what the event was though. He completely left me in the dark as to what it was. All he said was all was to be revealed." "Oh, don't we know it?" laughed Henry. "We've all been buzzing with excitement about it. We just can't possibly guess what it's going to be, but I'm sure it'll be a marvellous surprise." "I'm quite sure of it too," Stepney said. "But for now, we all better be working hard until it's time for the event itself. Speaking of which, are there any trucks around?" he asked hopefully. "Oh, plenty as always," Henry answered. "Oh, don't you want to rest after your journey?" "Oh, I'm fine," Stepney said. "I'm as spry as I ever was." "Okay then," replied Henry. Henry then took some more passengers from the station. And Stepney went to find 2 trucks. Finally, the big day came. The engines were all excited. "Finally, we get to see what's going on," Percy squeaked excitedly. "And given what's been done already, I know it's going to be a rail event," Stepney added. "So this will be good. And I'm sure this will be one of our finest events yet," Toby said. "And once we're all ready, we can go and see what's going on," Thomas added. So once the engines had built up enough steam, one by one they all went over to file into the station. The engines all came in, and were not surprised to see the public already filling in. What did surprise them was how many people there were. "Bust my buffers!" exclaimed Thomas. "I've never seen the station this busy." "Well, the Fat Controller did see the tickets had already sold out," Donald said. "Speaking of which, what else did he see?" He glanced towards the clock. It was 10:48. 2 whole minutes before the Fat Controller's speech was due to begin. 2 minutes, Donald said. "Until the speech is said?" asked Douglas. "Yes," said Donald. "He said he'd be giving his speech at 10:50, and then everything begins at 11 o'clock. Then, Gordon took note of something that wasn't there before. Behind where the Fat Controller was standing, there was a picture of his brother Flying Scotsman. Workmen must have put it up before they came in. Why is there a picture of Flying Scotsman up there? He wondered. Then he thought, "Oh, please tell me he's coming." At last it was time to give the speech. The Fat Controller stood before the people and began. "Ladies, gentlemen, and engines, I must say I am truly honoured that so many of you have come to this very special event. A lot of hard work and planning has gone into it. Speaking of which, I'd like to thank Lucy Bridgeland and everyone from Space Inclusive for their hard work, and all of my staff and engines for their contributions. And now, without further ado, here is what will be happening very shortly." He addressed the picture. "This very engine behind me is Flying Scotsman, as I'm sure most of you are aware. This year, Flying Scotsman officially becomes 100 years old, during the course of next week for that matter. To mark such a special occasion, and for such a special engine, I have arranged the Flying Scotsman to come and stay with us from today till next Sunday,
making a whole week and giving rail tours around Shodor.
The engines were truly astounded.
What a thing to celebrate,
Tuck said. Well, this was certainly worth the surprise, Henry agreed.
And no wonder we were all wanting to look our best,
Gordon added.
Oh my, it'll be so good to see Scotsman again.
At last, the clapping and the cheering stopped so the Fat Controller could continue.
We are all deeply honoured the Flying Scotsman can visit us once more, he continued. For me as controller of this railway, a railway enthusiast, and of course, our very own Gordon, as he is Flying Scotsman's only surviving brother.
Everyone clapped for Gordon.
And now, Flying Scotsman will be here at 11 o'clock. As exciting as it is, I must remind everyone of platform safety. Don't get too close to the platform's edge, and make sure you all stand well back when he comes in. After he comes in, the first passenger's boarding will give him the chance to say hello to everyone, and then once all is ready, he shall take the first passengers around.
Just then, the clock struck the hour. Then, everyone heard a familiar whistle.
Here he comes!
Cried Percy. And indeed, here he was. The engines all whistled and cheered for him as he was coming in. Flying Scotsman looked spotless. He had been equally cleaned and made ready for this event, and his paint sparkled in the sun as he was gliding gracefully along the rails. Everyone cheered for him as he pulled into the station and rolled to a smooth and steady stop.
At last, Gordon proudly proclaimed, Doncaster's finest sons are reunited once again. Indeed,
agreed Flying Scotsman.
And as always, it's so marvellous to be back. And we're very proud to have you back too,
the Fat Controller said.
Thank you very much, sir,
Flying Scotsman answered.
It's so wonderful to see everyone again, and for such a special occasion in the form of my 100th birthday too.
The Centenary week was an enormous success. Everyone enjoyed their rides with Flying Scotsman as he took them up and down the main line. And Flying Scotsman massively enjoyed talking to each and every one of the engines in the sheds at night. Everyone enjoyed his company. From famous engine to famous engine, he and Centenary got along too, and they were even photographed side by side from all angles. But as successful as it was, nothing was to last forever, and the week came to an end. Everyone felt very downcast when it was time for Flying Scotsman to go, but they all wore smiles as they bid the famous engine farewell. That night, the engines talked about the event in the sheds.
It was well worth the surprise for that, Oliver said. That was the best rail event I've ever been part of.
Yes, it was great, Thomas agreed. And I hope it won't be long before we see Flying Scotsman again.
I hope so too, little Thomas, Gordon agreed. It still feels so relieving to know that my class has at least one survivor other than me.
Just then, the Fat Controller and Lucy came up. We can all see you enjoyed this week-long event, Lucy said. And now it's time for an additional surprise that we didn't tell you. The engine's interest peaked.
This event has not only been for Flying Scotsman's Centenary year, but it has also been for the goodwill of charity, the Fat Controller said. We have raised well over £100,000 for them. They will be most pleased with this donation. Well done to all of you for helping prepare the event and for getting everything ready throughout it.
The engines cheered. The Fat Controller covered his ears, but he smiled to himself. He could not be any prouder of his engines. and everyone agreed that the Flying Scotsman Centenary had been a great success indeed.
They're 2, they're 4, they're 6, they're 8. The shunting trucks and hauling freight. Red and green and brown and blue. They're the really useful crew.